We're going to take a look at how electricity makes the jug blender work. The blender has its plug and lead, which delivers the electrical power to the blender. This AC on the live wire is taken through some filtering components straight to the switch. This is a 3-position make-break type of switch, and we'll explain a little bit of how this one operates. Let's look at how each of the main components operate. Let's start with a switch. The switch has 3 positions. The pulse position, P, is not a latching position. It's a spring-loaded position. You can turn the knob to pulse, but the knob always returns to 0 or off position. Position number 1 is a slow speed latched position, and how this works is as follows. The live coming into the switch is sent via a diode to the output of the switch. The diode, because it works as a one-way valve for electricity, will remove 1/2 of the 230-volt AC wave, effectively halving the power delivered to the motor. Position number 2 is a high-speed position, and it sends the full 230 volts AC to the output of the switch. In other words, the diode is no longer in use. Next is the micro switch. The role of the micro switch is that of a safety switch. The blender will not switch on unless a jug is attached to the motor body. The micro switch sits on the neutral wire. Next is the motor. The motor used in a blender is a universal motor. The universal motor can work either on a DC or an AC single-phase supply. When the universal motor is fed with a DC supply, it works as a DC series motor. When current flows in the field winding, it produces an electromagnetic field. The same current also flows in the armature conductors. When a current-carrying conductor is placed in an electromagnetic field, it experiences a mechanical force. Due to this mechanical force or torque, the rotor starts to rotate. The direction of this force is given by Fleming's left-hand rule. When fed with AC supply, it still produces a unidirectional torque. Because the armature winding and field winding are connected in series, they are in the same phase, and hence, as the polarity of the AC changes periodically, the direction of the current in armature and field winding reverse at the same time. So the direction of the magnetic field and the direction of the armature current reverse in such a way that the direction of the force experienced by the armature conductors remain the same. Thus, regardless of AC or DC supply, the universal motor works on the same principle that a DC series motor works. The thermal fuses. A thermal fuse is wired into the circuit before or after each brush. This fuse is attached to the side of the stator coils, and their function is to blow if the motor or the blender gets too hot. Due to the naturally occurring sparking where the 2 brushes make contact with the rotor commutator, electrical noise is generated. If the noise is not stopped from traveling back along the AC wiring, the electrical noise can affect other appliances in the household, such as radios and televisions. The components used to eliminate the noise are the capacitors at each of the brushes and the main capacitor at the AC power coming in. Now let's look at how you repair the blender. Underneath the blender, there are 4 long plastic tubes, each of which hides a screw, attaching the body of the blender to the base, which holds the motor. Separate the 2 halves of the blender body, taking care not to break the wiring to the switch. At the top of the blender body, there's a gear wheel that engages with the blade mechanism of the jug. To remove the gear wheel, hold the blades firmly at the bottom of the motor. Take hold of the gear wheel and turn the wheel anti-clockwise. This will unscrew the wheel from the motor shaft. Once the 2 halves have been separated, the switch, the motor, and the micro switch will be exposed. Now let's test the components. Remove the knob from the switch shaft. Stick a flat screwdriver under the knob and lift the knob off the shaft. Place the flat screwdriver under the switch housing and lift the housing from the blender body. Now the switch and wiring is fully revealed. To test the plug and lead, set the multimeter to continuity setting and test from the plug's live pin to the live connector. You should have continuity. Test the neutral pin to the neutral connector. You should have continuity. Note that this blender has a plastic body, and as such, it does not need an earth connection. The plug, therefore, is a 2-pin plug that only supplies live and neutral to the blender. Set the multimeter to the continuity stroke diode test setting. Measure the voltage drop across the diode. The reading on the multimeter should be around 0.5 volts. Turn the multimeter to the 200 ohms setting. Test from one brush to the other. You should get between 20 to 30 ohms. Measure from the switch live connection to the live brush. You should get between 5 to 6 ohms. Measure from the output of the switch to the brush. You should also get there about 5 to 6 ohms. A quick test of a blender is to place the jug in position and rotate the switch to position 2. Measure for about 50 ohms at the live and neutral at the plug. This will indicate whether the blender is working or not. The most common faults with blenders are blown fuses, bad brushes, and burned field windings. The proper use of the blender. Do not use the blender for longer than 2 minutes continuously. The operator must add a little liquid to the jug and must not dry blend ingredients. Do not place your hand inside the blender while it's spinning. Electricity is dangerous. When working on any electrical appliance, remove the plug from the wall socket.